Well, hello folks. Welcome to the Fundamentals of Project Management. I'm your instructor, Al Martin, and I thought I'd make this video to introduce some things, important things about the course, but also to let you connect to face to a name. Um, uh, Speaking of the course, uh, this is the online format of the course, which means that at Sheridan, that means there are no set lectures for this particular course. It's all through self-led materials, some videos, reading, obviously, textbooks, and content inside the Slate system. Um, so um, what that means for you as students is that you don't get that chance to, catch up with teachers in the hallway or whatever. Not that we're doing that right now, but um, so you really have to make sure you make an effort to reach out to me if you've got questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you get through the course material, and if you get stuck on something, reach out to me, and we can communicate in various ways. We can exchange via email. We can set up a phone call, or we can set up an audio video conference inside the Slate system. Um, Lots of options. I also have a pretty flexible schedule. So if you have constraints, you have work schedules tying up your day, family schedules, whatever it is, we can certainly work around that. So, you know, that's exactly what I'm here for. Don't forget to take advantage of it. Now, speaking of communications, um, the the primary source of direct communications would be email, and in this course we use the Slate email system. Um, so that little envelope up in the top right corner of your screen, um, gets you to the Slate email system. Not the best system in the world, but it's the one that we all have access to. Um, and in there, there are some options that you can use to forward your Slate email to an external email. So, most people are not going in and out of the Slate system multiple times a day like you would in your, regular email system. So if somebody wants to reach you, like myself or a classmate, um, you're not going to get that message until you go into the Slate system. So if you forward, then you would get it, right away whenever you pick up your regular emails. However, the Slate system can receive emails externally, and it can forward emails, but you can't send emails. So what that means is, say you had a question for me. If you send it, say, from a Gmail account, I'll be able to receive it into Slate. I'll be able to read your question, but I can't directly answer the question. I can't just hit reply because it won't let me send externally. So if you have a question, I would prefer, it's going to work much better if you send that question from within Slate. Now, um, if you just need to tell me something and it doesn't require a reply, you can certainly send it from an external email system. Um, the second thing about this, we communicate to our classmates. One primary source is Slate email. There's also online discussions, and we're going to talk about some other ones as we get through the course. Um, the next part of this video, I'm actually going to take you off from the camera view, and move you over to some views of some of some screenshots of things that I want to show you relevant for your course. Now, obviously, these are casual videos that I create for this course, not big production values, Not doing it from a studio. I'm doing it from my study. You can see all the junk behind me. Um, I use a little video editing software, but I'm not calling myself professional in any way. It's just casual, trying to get you information. So, with that in mind, I'm going to switch over to some screenshots. To continue, I want to talk about the assignments in this course. You're going to find that this course is very busy with assignments, and it's done that way on purpose for a couple of reasons. The first one is just the reality. This is a project management course. You're learning how to be project managers. Project managers deal with deadline after deadline after deadline. So you're going to get a real feel for that in this course. There's some good news about that. There's a lot of assignments. Some of them are very small. So there's some online discussions where you just have to go into a discussion forum and talk about the topic. A couple of paragraphs, comment on somebody else's conversation, and that's it. As long as you're on topic, you're going to get full marks. So those are easy things. There's quite a few group assignments. The assignments themselves are not massive, and certainly you get distributed them within the group. So, those group assignments, obviously, if you've done group assignments in class before, they take work. That's part of what we discuss. One of the online discussions is virtual teams, which is this one right here. So then there's some individual assignments, there are some little quizzes, and there's a thing called a facilitator report, and of course there's a midterm and a final exam. And so it's a very busy course. Now, the other good part of this, other than experiencing life as a project manager, is that you get to do a lot of hands-on things and produce the things that project managers produce and do as part of their job. That's what most of these assignments are about. And so you get a lot of experience doing this, even though we're not in the real world. And you're doing it in the context of what you learn. So that being said, I laid out here on this screen sort of a visual way for you to see. This is called a Gantt chart. So this is something that we project managers produce using project management software. Right now on your screen, you're seeing one that I've been trying recently, which is quite good. And it's an online thing, and it's called ClickUp. And it lets me put in various bits of information. It lets me produce a Gantt chart. You can have other people with IDs to sign into the system, and they can update the status of their tasks and things like that. So it's kind of nice. It's not required for this course. I just thought it would be useful for you to see something like this. So these are all the assignments and things that you end up doing in class. A Gantt chart is good because it sort of shows the timing of things. The specific timing of when your assignments are due, that's in the weekly schedule file you'll find in the course. But this gives you a visual representation of it. But it also shows you here that there's some what we call shared deliverables. In other words, there's a part in the course where you end up handing off things and getting things from a separate group in the class. And so this sort of shows that dependency in those connections. That'll become clear as we navigate through the course, but this is just a visual way that we see it when we schedule using a Gantt chart software. Microsoft Project is probably the most commonly used tool in the industry for doing this type of scheduling, although these online web tools are becoming very prevalent. We don't do Microsoft Project in this course. There's a whole separate course just on Microsoft Project. But you may want to explore some of these things. And just a quick look, if I switch over to this list page, well, that's not too cooperative. Sorry, I'm just capturing a portion of the screen, so it's kind of cutting it off. But at any rate, the this lets you put in a start date and end date, various pieces of information about all the tasks, just like you would for a project. Now, while we're on the topic of marks, etc., I'm going to sort of flip to a different view here, which is an Excel view of your assignments as the course goes down on. And I created this basically by exporting some of this information from the ClickUp and formatting it as specific types of chart in Microsoft Excel. And I wanted to show you this because this is another common tool project managers use. So along the bottom here, you can see these are all the different assignments. The size of this little bar is how many marks it's worth. Okay, so for instance, the quizzes in week 3 is 10%. They total 10% of your mark. And so, these are all the individual assignments. And then this green line shows how you accumulate your mark through the course. And that's a really important thing to sort of get your mind around, is that every time you do an assignment, you're accumulating a mark. You're getting some of the work done. And that's the way we tend to think of a project as well. Every task that gets completed, you're completing part of the project. And that's the accumulated one. Another common view that we use, another way to look at it, as opposed to accumulated, is this red line, which is what we call a burn down. So at the beginning of the project, you have 100% of the work to be done. And as you complete tasks, you have less and less work to be done to complete the project, or to complete the course. And so a burn down, charts like this are commonly used. Burn down is very common in agile methodologies, which you'll learn a little bit about in the course. But this is another way to look at it. But it brings an important part just for your marks. If I flip over to this view, you can see these are all the assignments. This is what the mark is worth for each assignment, and then I've got an accumulated column and a burn down column. The reason I'm pointing this out is what happens in this course is, due to the nature of the course, which we'll find out about later, in the nature of people. Some people are very good at studying for and taking exams, whereas, other people, that's not necessarily their strongest suit. And that's perfectly normal. Some people don't do as well in exams. But I'm bringing it up here to show you that the way this course breaks out is, you do have a midterm, and you do have a final exam. And yes, they certainly take some studying. They're done online. They're worth bigger chunks of marks. But the accumulation of all of the other assignments along the way, you're building your mark as you go. And so if you do those, even if you're one of those people who, don't do as well as you'd like on exams, you're still doing fine in the course. But don't miss out on those things. So these online discussions, all they require you to do is to go in and talk about the topic. Give us some thoughts about the topic. And then importantly, comment on one of your classmates' discussion points. If you do those two things, you're on topic, you get full marks. Now, the first one's not worth a lot of marks, 2%, but by the time you add up all the discussion points, by the end of the course, you've got 10% of your marks just connected to those discussions. That's like, equivalent to half of your final exam. So don't miss out on those things. That's the important part I'm talking about here. And then if I flip back over here, as you go through the course, we'll get to a certain point. So by the time we get to week 8, right here, that's the crossing point. That's where you've got 50% of your marks in the course. All you need is 50% to pass this course. I usually get this question partway through the course from some people. So I'm answering it now. So what happens is that, if you're doing well up to that point, you may have already passed the course. And even if you didn't do great on the midterm, by week 10, you've probably still passed the course. So I'm pointing this out because people get intimidated a little bit by those exams, and you certainly should study for them. By all means, try to get the best mark you can, but it's not the end of the world if you don't do as well as you would like, because you accumulate marks all along the way. So I hope you're going to find this useful for the course. There is a fair bit of work in the course, but project managers have challenging work lives, that's for sure. Some people really love it. And we really love it for different reasons. Different aspects of the job really excite us. But it's always about timelines, deadlines, and getting the work done. So, as I mentioned before, please reach out if you have any questions. Download a copy of the weekly schedule. That becomes your timeline that we march through as we go through the course. So I'm glad you joined us, and don't forget to participate in the unmarked discussion to introduce yourself. That's always a fun one. Hi folks, back in person for one last but very important piece of information. With the latest times that we're dealing with right now, I've instituted a special policy around assignments and due dates. So what I've decided to do is kind of give you a couple of free passes, couple of free late passes, put it that way. So once during the course, if you need to give me something late, you can do it for free, no questions asked. Let me know if you need to do it late, submit it late. But I'm not going to ask you for, any extreme measures for reasons or anything. Just say, sorry, couldn't get it in on time, and let me know, preferably before the deadline. But you get one free pass. And actually I'm giving you 2 free passes. One is for individual assignments, so something that you're submitting by yourself, and then one for your group when we get into groups. So there's a number of group assignments. Your group, if you get held up for one reason, you get 1 free pass on group assignments. So that's an important thing. Again, I prefer to know it ahead of time. Just like when project managers are dealing with a task that's going to be late, they'd rather know before the deadline of that task. I would rather know, yes. But it's not the end of the world if so. Now, the only exception to this will be right at the end of the course, because I have a hard deadline around when I have to get your marks in. So when we get to the end of the course, we sort of run out of that wiggle room. But at any time, you can reach out to me and let me know. Thanks, and hope you enjoy the course.